Hi friends, let me welcome Paris Taylor. Hi Paris.
Hi, it's lovely to be here.
She runs a company called People Skilled. As the name suggests, it's all about skilled people. um, and it's a fantastic organization doing all sorts of HR related activities, providing services to the businesses. And we are going to touch upon a very important aspect of everybody's life as you get into the workplace, or if you're already in the workplace. You have that. Well, but before I do that and I reveal the topic, which is going to be so important to all the students who are going to enter into the work life and lots of business people, for them to understand how do I manage my workforce to be more productive and not have the problems that we will speak about today. So, welcome Paris again, and just give us a brief detail about what you do, what's your business is, and what kind of services you do. Of course, your experience so far.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Paris Taylor. I'm the CEO and founder of People Skilled. And at People Skilled, we provide comprehensive HR solutions for small and medium-sized businesses designed to help our clients with their complex HR needs. So what we do is we work with clients to align their HR strategy with their overall business goals. So in order for them to attract, retain and develop the best talent. So we focus on areas such as recruitment, onboarding and offboarding, performance management, employee experience and HR operations. And I've been doing HR for around the last 8 years, and I founded People Skilled last year.
Fantastic. Right, so what is the topic we have in the store today?
So the topic we have in store today is imposter syndrome and how you can navigate imposter syndrome in the workplace.
Wow. So, if you haven't heard of that, let's first understand what is it.
So imposter syndrome is that thing in your head that tells you you don't deserve this, or you're not good enough, or that makes you constantly compare yourself to people around you. It's something that we all face throughout our career and throughout our lives, whether from all levels, whether you're just starting out in your career, whether you're a CEO, whether you're a senior employee. It's something that we all experience from time to time.
All right, so that's interesting. I think a lot of people have the skills,
Yeah.
they're also productive, but it is just that they feel insecure or not being able to do up to their potential. They're actually doing it, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, so that's interesting. So tell us, because I think from audience perspective, let me say, she's been in the HR role for a long time and also facing or feeling people throughout this life cycle. Would you like to share any experiences?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was first starting out in my HR career, I had imposter syndrome. So I started off working for a company called GPIS, which is a leisure company that focuses on leisure centres across and libraries across England. So I worked within their recruitment team, but when I first joined the company, I do remember feeling like I wasn't good enough and feeling like I just didn't really get the work, and I even had thoughts of quitting the role. And yeah, I just really kept comparing myself to other people around me. But then one day I just sat there and I thought, why do I feel like this? I'm new in the role, of course I'm not going to know what to do and hit the ground running straight away. So I think the first thing is important to understand why you feel like that so you can do something about it. And once you have acknowledged that, I think it's important to seek feedback or mentorship from people around you in order to help you to continuously improve and learn, and eventually you will will start to feel better. I do think imposter syndrome is an internal feeling, and I do think if you do shift your perspective, that can help a lot, because I think when you are telling yourself that you're not good at something or constantly comparing yourself to other people, you kind of look for things that confirm those thoughts that you have. And so it's important to understand why you feel like that, so you can do something about it and shift your perspective.
All right, that's very interesting. Now, what people should be able to do to come out of this problem? You know, what are the areas that you think can help them?
I think, especially when starting a new workplace, it's important to set realistic goals for yourself. I think oftentimes we can start a new workplace and we want to achieve so much and we want to make changes, but changes don't happen overnight. You first need to get familiar with your position. You need to understand your responsibilities, and then you need to break that down into small actionable steps that you can take in order to help build your confidence and to keep you going. And not only that, I think mentorship opportunities are really great as well. If you do find that you're struggling, your manager 9 times out of 10 will be grateful that you was confident enough to come to them and tell them that you're struggling and you do need a bit of support. So when I worked for a law firm previously, when I was hiring new joiners, what we would do is we would pair them up with a buddy, so somebody outside of
Their department.
Department, and they'll be paired with them. So their first day they might go for a coffee with each other,
Right.
and then they will have regular one-to-ones with that person outside their department. And the whole idea is that the new joiner gets familiar with people outside of their department and people that might be more experienced at work than them, so they have someone that they can constantly go back to if they need any help or support. And it's a way to bridge the departments together and help people mingle, because oftentimes you can stick within your individual departments. So I think,
That's very interesting. You mentioned about mentorship, and so for audience who are employers here, the two ways initially you can start with this is design a proper mentorship framework for your organization, and the second is obviously this budding idea. Now, budding is more about being friendly, just trying to involve them in the organization and have a little bit of a lighter friend. I wouldn't call it a support, but I would just say, it's a slight moral support or a little bit of a hand holding.
Yeah.
But mentorship is much more than that. And if it is designed properly, again, you don't want to make it a meal, but you still have to plan for it. Because if you have defined a framework for the mentorship, then things will happen in the way you would like to happen in your organization. Otherwise, somebody might have, these coffee sessions, which I say, as Paris said just now, about budding, is a different thing, which is fine, which still needs to be there. However, when it comes to mentorship, we just don't want them to mingle and have off-track conversations. And of course, the areas that we need to watch, we don't want these conversations to lead into workplace gossips, right? Because that, can lead to a lot of problems. Oh, do you feel it's the same problem? Oh, yes. I have the same problem with IT. Whenever I log an issue, it takes them longer time to come back to me. Oh, you have the same problem? And you start, generating this anger, which is multiplying, right? Rather than, somebody saying, oh, Is that a problem with you with IT? Oh, don't bother. Sometimes it does happen, but they're usually very quick. That should be what you would expect to happen, but many a times, it can be reversed. So in order to handle this, and Paris obviously is a champion in the subject, so there are always two sides to the coin. Two sides of the coin, which means there is a mentorship. If it is planned properly, it'll help your work culture. If it is not planned properly, then it can destroy your existing culture, and also create some different kind of feeling within the employees. So to my friends who are employers, founders, and CXOs in this audience, take proper care in getting this plan. Don't just go on an idea that let's have some buddies, let's put somebody as a mentor. There is a danger, right, in trying to create things without a proper plan and guidance. Also, these mentors will need to be guided. Of course, there's a framework, right? So HR consultants have designed a framework for you. So this is what needs to happen in our mentorship. And then the people will have to be given a session on how to execute it, right? Maybe there are these interactions that you might need from an external person like Paris, probably once in a month, once in 2 months, because they're obviously new joinees. At the same time, existing people also tend to forget some of the things. And this, we call it intervention, right, is a lighter moment in the organization. Now, usually we used to have this annual day, where you have once in a year, everybody meets up, and it's a kind of a HR activity day where people will go through the team building exercises and other things. Now, this is not possible in today's world, especially if lots of people are, across the globe, and at the same time, only doing this once in a year is not effective. What do you say?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Now we have remote working and hybrid working, and it's difficult to bring everyone in on the same day to ensure that we do have these activities. So I think it is important, again, to ensure that we have the proper framework in place and the proper resources in place so that we can help foster new employees and employees that have worked at the company already, and just make sure that everyone feels supported.
Yeah, so I think, we probably move on from this to try and understand, what is it that employee, the first time employee or those who are already in the employment, what are they need to do in order to understand that I'm actually facing this imposter syndrome? I don't know. So we know what we can do if we are in that syndrome, but how do I know that I'm actually facing that syndrome?
I would say, if you tend to feel like you're comparing yourself to others at work, or if you constantly have a voice in your head that is constantly telling you, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve this, I think from you start experiencing those things, you do need to take some time to reflect and ask yourself why you are feeling this way. And I think really that's the most important part. I think once you notice that you do feel lesser than, or that you don't deserve to be somewhere, you need to identify exactly why it is that you feel like that in order for you to take steps to correct that.
Yeah, brilliant. And also, now that you know that you are part of this syndrome, how important is the role of the support system? Your people around you at workplace and outside.
I think the people around you are very important at work and outside of work. I think it's important to continuously seek feedback from people that you trust. So this could be a colleague, a manager, a partner, or a friend. And I think it's important to take your emotion out of it and look at things from a logical perspective. And I think once you approach the situation as an opportunity for growth and for learning, as opposed to feeling attacked or as though someone's judging you, it's a lot easier to take in what they're saying. And you can build that relationship where you can go back to them and confide in them if you need help or you don't understand anything. I think it's important to have people around you that really support you, help you to grow, and people that you almost look up to as well. You respect the way that you do this or do that, and you would love to do it like that. So you can work closely with them. Yeah, I think it's very important.
So now let's try to look into some of the cases or your experiences so that this becomes more relevant to the audience. Any sort of examples from your last work or the previous work where you want to probably explain, how somebody felt this syndrome and how your personal experience maybe and how you overcome it?
Yeah, sure. So I previously mentioned that I started my career at a company called GLL, and I worked there for 4 years within their recruitment department. And then in 2019, COVID struck and they let go of the entire HR team, so we was all made redundant. Initially, this was a very challenging time because I'd worked there for 4 years, and I didn't really know what my next step would be. Luckily, I was able to secure a role at the Crown Estate, but my life transitioned from being in an office 5 days a week to having support in the office to going into a role that was completely remote with additional responsibilities and workload. So initially I found that quite difficult because, like I said, my previous experience was just recruitment based, but I moved into a generalist position where I was handling all aspects of HR.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that's good.
Yeah, of course. And I think for me, like I said, you have to identify the problem. So I identified that not being in the office, it took me longer to learn things. Oftentimes when you're in the office, you pick things up based on what people are saying, etc. So when you're at home, you do have to make an effort to reach out to your team and let people know you're struggling if you are. So what I did is I set up more one-to-ones with my manager so that we could go over things if I didn't understand them, and just so that I could build that confidence and trust to reach out to my manager anytime I needed to. So over time, like I said, I reached out to my team more. I always sought ways to learn. For example, if I wasn't good at Excel, I might do a course on Excel spreadsheets. I think it's just, again, acknowledging your pain points and really finding solutions to them. And as a result of me being thrown into an uncomfortable situation, I had to learn and I had to grow because I had to do payroll. People have to get paid regardless. So I think once I was used to that feeling, it kind of helped me in life because I was able to adapt and be more flexible going forward.
That's very important. I think if I may understand, her perspective, there's a fine line between you actually not doing what you're supposed to do and the syndrome where you're actually feeling not doing it, but you're actually doing a little more. So one point is you're feeling inferior, you're feeling not able to do things, and other side is you're actually not doing enough, right? So there's a fine line, and the beautiful experience you shared is sometimes it is actually that you had to learn Excel. So it's not a syndrome, it's not an imposter syndrome, it is actually lack of your ability. So whenever you're facing this syndrome, maybe right? Try to learn. So learning something will give you the confidence anyway, and you will be more productive. So whether you are facing that syndrome or you're actually lagging in your productivity, learning is the best way to come out of it. And you will learn these new skills. You will find yourself, now I'm able to do this. I'm using this Excel formula now, which I didn't do before. So it will boost your confidence if you are facing imposter syndrome. And if you're actually lagging the productivity, then it'll increase your productivity as well, which is brilliant. So I think that's a fantastic solution that you just gave. And what I would say to the students who are going to enter into their work life is try to balance, your work and learning, right? Understand that workplace is for you to do the work and not necessarily go and learn at workplace. Because if you feel that you're lagging in Excel skills or some of the other skills which is affecting your productivity, you will have to do that off the work for at least some initial period, because only then you are doing justice to your employer, who is actually paying for every hour you're at the office.
Yeah, it's definitely about being proactive and acknowledging your weaknesses and being proactive in your own time and figuring out ways to overcome that, as opposed to just expecting your manager to do the work for you. If you have an issue with confidence, go take a public speaking course. There's so many ways you can navigate imposter syndrome. And I also do think it's important to remember as well that when you do feel imposter syndrome, it's usually an indication that you're trying something out of your comfort zone, or something that you don't have the best knowledge on. So you do, like you said, you have to keep learning and just keep expanding and skill set.
Yeah, so that's great for the new entrants to the work life. And to my audience, again, those who are CXOs and founders and owners of the companies, we need to have a training plan or learning plan in place, right? So one is obviously for the continual growth of your employees, which you might also have, which is in sync with the work that they do. However, without spending a lot, if you also have a training program for your employees to learn some smaller skills, which are not necessarily what they do at work, but it will help their productivity by large, by having these digital skills. So, small things like, how are you expected to manage your LinkedIn account, right? So it's not directly linked to the work that they do, but it's just a small skill that gives them a pleasure of learning something new. So I'm saying this is a learning, not a plan, but learning element. If you can introduce in their work life, a very light one, so it shouldn't take a lot of their time from their work or personal life. And that's an area where you probably want to add some foundation programs that we have, digital skills related tools that we have. Well, probably a small AI tool that can be taught to them. Again, do they all need to use an AI tool? Well, I'm not talking about ChatGPT, by the way. That people would know and use. I'm talking about an AI tool which helps you create a video yourself, right? So that's something that people, unless they need, they wouldn't try, right? So in some of our programs, we would say this goes under what you were saying before the interview, is about employee engagement. Now that's a very different topic, it's a vast topic, not for today, but maybe if you need, please request us and we can probably organize another session where she can talk about employee engagement. But for that, if you just had this one session of an expert coming in and explaining to them how to use an AI tool to create a video, in 5 minutes. And it's going to be fun to learn that. And in their personal life, they would just feel, oh, wow, I know something different, right? And I'll tell you, this is so much of a fun. Even if you go to LSDB's website, lsdb.co.uk, we have something called Digital Carnival, and it's a free carnival.
Yeah.
The first activity is Video Genius, right? And in that activity, we're just doing that. We're just helping people, go through the steps. It is actually very easy, right? So we tell them the tool and just show them the screenshots and how you actually create a video in literally 3 to 4 minutes. Well, you don't need any skills at all. All you need to know is how do you write 1 or 2 English sentences. Just give those sentences to the tool and it'll just create the video. So you don't need editing skills, nothing at all. And the tool is free. And so you just do that activity, you learn the tool, you get that quick pleasure of doing something creative. And by way of doing that, let me ask the expert, would we be able to break down this imposter syndrome?
Yeah, sure. There's definitely systems you can use. Like something I previously used in my role was LinkedIn Learning, and that is another platform that can help you create a career plan. And if there's anything that you're struggling with, you can access training and courses on LinkedIn Learning. So I definitely think it is worth for CEOs, managers to ensure that they do invest into a system such as this, so that their employees, regardless of what stage in their career they're in, they can refer back to that if need be.
I guess we're coming towards the end of this interview, because I think this topic we can just go on and on. She's full of knowledge and she's been doing this for a long time, and probably you can take a workshop for the entire day, right? But we have to pause at some point. So this is a point where I would just say that, look, do you really want to know what are the steps that you need to take to be very effective, productive when you go to the workplace? Whether you are the new entrant into the industry or whether you are already in the industry feeling that you want to do a lot more, or you actually have the capacity to do a lot more, right? And let me just say that I don't know how many of you watch this series called Supergirl. Have you seen one of those?
No, I haven't.
Right. Even the Supergirl faces imposter syndrome. Can you believe that?
I do.
She says to Lena that, look, I have this burden of securing, the security of the entire planet. So if I see Krypton, or kryptonite, isn't it? Yeah, kryptonite, I feel uncomfortable, because that's going to destroy me or reduce my powers, and then I will not be able to help the world. So if she can go through this imposter syndrome, then many of us already have that. So probably, it's time for us to take a break, and we will be back with you live with her to answer your questions. I'm sure a lot of people will have their questions on how to go about things in their particular industry, in their companies, and we'll be more than happy to take on your live questions. So thank you very much for your time, Paris. It was great talking to you, and we'll go live on the webinar, and I think we'll be able to do a lot of justice to people's time.
Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you for having me on. I've enjoyed my time and I look forward to it.
Thank you.